Sean Penn is no stranger to controversy, but what unfolded during his recent appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live stunned even his most seasoned fans. The night started off predictably enough, with Kimmel introducing Penn with the warm smile and light banter. The crowd cheered as the two sat down, and there was an initial back and forth about Penn's latest humanitarian efforts. But soon the conversation veered into political territory, an area where Penn has never shied away from speaking his mind. Kimmel cracked a joke about celebrities involving themselves in global issues, and while the audience chuckled, Penn didn't. His expression shifted, and what followed was a slow but visible unraveling of civility between host and guest. Kimmel, perhaps assuming Penn would play along, pressed it further by referencing a past photo of Sean with a controversial political leader. The audience laughed again, but Penn was clearly irritated. "You know, Jimmy," he said, "you like to make everything a punchline, but not everything is funny." That response quieted the room. Kimmel tried to recover, asking if Penn regretted any of his past activism, but instead of a direct answer, Penn delivered a monologue about the responsibility of American figures to understand global conflicts before mocking them. It wasn't just a defense, it was a challenge, and Kimmel, clearly unprepared for the seriousness, looked momentarily at a loss. The tension thickened as Penn began criticizing the American media's portrayal of international crises. He accused late-night shows of sanitizing complex issues into memes and sarcasm. Kimmel, now visibly uncomfortable, said, "Sean, people come here to laugh." Penn didn't miss a beat. "And people die because the truth is buried under those laughs." The studio audience, unsure whether to clap or stay silent, remained awkwardly still. It was clear now that this wasn't just a tough interview, it was a standoff. Sean Penn had turned Jimmy Kimmel Live into a battleground of ideals, and there was no backing down. Trying to reclaim control, Kimmel redirected the conversation back to Penn's recent film, but Sean wasn't having it. He called out Hollywood's hypocrisy, how the industry champions causes at award shows but stays silent when real courage is needed. Kimmel attempted humor again, asking if Penn missed just being an actor and not an activist. That was the final straw. "I'm always an actor," Penn replied, "but I can't act like the world isn't falling apart." The silence was deafening. What had started as an interview was now a raw, live critique of entertainment's detachment from the real world. Penn's voice rose as he detailed his recent travels to war-torn regions, criticizing American detachment from suffering abroad. He cited specific instances where media coverage lacked depth and context. Kimmel, now defensive, said, "We can't solve everything here, Sean," to which Penn shot back, "Then stop pretending you care for ratings." At this point, murmurs in the audience grew louder. The producers were clearly signaling from offstage, unsure if they should cut to commercial. But the live tension was gripping, almost theatrical in its intensity. Sean Penn wasn't there to play along, and Kimmel was losing his grip on the segment. Then came the moment that would dominate headlines. Penn stood up mid-conversation, took off his microphone, and said, "If I wanted laughs, I'd go to a clown show. This isn't one of them." He walked off the set, leaving Kimmel and the audience stunned. There was no exit music, no commercial break, just the wide-eyed Jimmy Kimmel, looking off stage, unsure whether to laugh it off or address the storm that had just passed through. The silence spoke volumes. In one gesture, Penn had turned the celebrity promo into a protest, and the world was watching. Within minutes, social media lit up. Clips of the walk-off went viral, spawning debates and analysis. #Sean Penn walkout and #Kimmel clash began trending, with thousands weighing in. Some praised Penn's unflinching honesty, saying he held late-night television accountable for its trivialization of real-world issues. Others accused him of being combative and disrespectful. Memes were made, commentaries published, and even fellow celebrities began posting their takes. It was no longer about what happened on the show, it was about what it said regarding celebrity responsibility and media accountability. Jimmy Kimmel addressed the incident in the next night's monologue, making a few self-deprecating jokes but also hinting at discomfort. "Sean Penn came here for a conversation, and I guess he left with a statement," he said. He didn't apologize, nor did he mock Penn outright. likely understanding the gravity of what had occurred. However, insiders leaked that producers were furious. The entire segment was meant to boost ratings ahead of Sweeps Week, and now they had a PR nightmare. Behind the scenes, discussions were already being held about guest vetting and content boundaries for future episodes. Penn remained largely silent for the next 48 hours. When he finally spoke, it was through a carefully written op-ed in a major newspaper. In it, he reiterated his concerns about how entertainment has become detached from reality. He defended his walkout, saying, "If truth makes people uncomfortable, then perhaps we're too comfortable with lies." The piece was both applauded and criticized, adding more fuel to the fire. It wasn't just about Kimmel anymore. Penn had ignited a larger debate about what responsibility celebrities have, and not just to entertain, but to enlighten. Several other actors and public figures began weighing in. Some shared stories of being asked to keep it light on talk shows, despite wanting to discuss serious matters. Others claimed that Penn overstepped, turning a promotional opportunity into a personal rant. Yet, all agreed that something fundamental was shifting in entertainment. Audiences were no longer just looking for jokes, they were seeking authenticity, even if it came with discomfort. And in that moment, Sean Penn became both hero and villain, depending on who you asked. Even media scholars began analyzing the moment. Interviews with cultural critics framed Penn's walk-off as a rebellion against the commodification of celebrity appearances. One journalist wrote, "It wasn't a meltdown, it was a manifesto." Kimmel's team, meanwhile, quietly edited the episode for syndication, removing several of the more intense moments. But the internet, with its unedited clips and infinite reach, had already archived everything. There was no erasing the impact or the conversation it had sparked. Interestingly, Penn's upcoming film, which was originally being overshadowed by bigger releases, suddenly found itself in the spotlight. The controversy drove curious viewers to buy tickets. Some wanted to support him. Others just wanted to see what all the fuss was about. Ironically, the very media machine Penn criticized had now propelled his film to box office success. But for Penn, it was never about sales, it was about a message. And whether or not people agreed with how he delivered it, they heard him loud and clear. As for Jimmy Kimmel, the experience left a mark. Though he resumed his usual comedic tone, interviews that followed seemed a bit more careful. Guests were treated with slightly more space to speak, and the show briefly experimented with a more balanced approach to serious topics. Whether this shift was temporary or permanent remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: the Penn incident reminded everyone that live television still has the power to surprise, provoke, and, on rare occasions, make us all think. In the end, Sean Penn's walkout became more than just another viral moment. It symbolized the growing tension between truth and entertainment, comfort and confrontation. It questioned what talk shows should be in an age of global unrest and endless information. Love him or hate him, Penn's actions forced late-night TV and its viewers set to reflect. And in today's world, where most interviews feel like rehearsed performances, that kind of raw, unpredictable honesty is almost revolutionary.